La 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 la. Here we're talking about Done and Dusted by Lyla Sage. This is a cowboy romance national bestseller, and it says it's a sweet, slow burn, sunshine in written form. I would say that's a pretty accurate description. This is a Rebel Blue Ranch novel, so she has, I believe, the third book in this series, like standalone series, comes out in November, I'm pretty sure. I'm really looking forward to that one. I haven't read Swift and Saddled yet, but this is the first of the three. I'm not sure if there will be more or not, I can't remember, but this story follows Clementine Ryder, Emmy Ryder, and Luke Brooks. This is technically about brother's best friend romance. It's a cowboy romance, and I was very pleasantly surprised by this, and I feel like I am definitely in my like cowboy romance era. I just cannot believe how much I love cowboy romances, considering I'm from like southern Alberta, Canada, and I will say the way the cowboys and like even cowgirls are written in these books, that's definitely not realistic based on where I live. Maybe in other like places where there's cowboys and cowgirls it might be more accurate, but I would say based on where I'm from, like kind of close to home of the Stampede, which is in Calgary, it's not like that. But this is a very romanticized version of it, and I do love it. I am very much into the lifestyle aspect of this book and the way they live their lives and like the atmosphere. I think that's what really pulls me in. If you have been watching, I just moved with my family and we live kind of on like not a ranch or anything, but it's just, I love the countryside. I do love the like aesthetic, the vibe, the feeling, the overall atmosphere that and the environment that is in like the countryside. So I think that's what really draws me in outside of the romances when it comes to like cowboy romance. This was just so well done in my opinion. I love this. It was so fun to read, and I think everyone should read it if you are into romance, especially if you are into cowboy romance or if you've never read cowboy romance. This is really good. Like I mentioned though, this does follow Clementine Ryder, Emmy Ryder. She is the main female character, and she basically is kind of keeping secrets from everyone about a traumatic experience that happened to her, and she's trying to navigate what her next steps in life are going to be, and to do that she returns home to Rebel Blue Ranch where she stays with her family. Luke Brooks is the main male character. He is basically both of her brothers' best friends, and he is obviously the love interest, but he's grown up a lot and his life has changed since Emmy has last seen him. He's very much a different person, but she's still seeing him through the same eyes as when she would have last saw him many years ago, and she just sees him as the brother's best friend and the guy that drives her crazy, but not in a good way, just kind of is annoying and frustrating, kind of like a brother. So it is interesting to see, not even like a brother, she definitely just finds him very annoying and like he's only there to get under her skin. Anyway, he owns the bar that they go into the first night, her and Teddy, her best friend Teddy, who I love their friendship. I will say all the characters in this for me I found very lovable. I really liked them, especially Emmy and Teddy together as friends. Made me think of my friends and myself, me and my friends, going out together. It definitely reminded me of that, and I miss my friends so much and wish I could go out with them and just see them and visit with them in real life. Their friendship was really wonderful to read about. Basically, they go to the Devil's Boot. I can't think of what the bar's called, but they go to his bar. He now owns it. They've never known who has owned it in the past, but they go into the bar. They're just there to kind of have fun, and Teddy wants her to have a good time her first night back. No one really knows that Emmy is back though, except for Teddy. And so when Luke, who owns and works at the bar, sees her, he plays a song specifically to get under her skin. I can't remember the song, but it is apparently an inside joke within the town, and everyone just thinks it's funny, and then yeah, everyone sees her, knows it's her, and of course she is very annoyed with Luke for doing this, and yeah. It's a very interesting setup, way everything plays out. But like I said, I love the atmosphere, I love the characters, I love the way this is written, and I love cowboy romance. I'm coming to realize that it is definitely one of my favorites. I read the entire Chestnut Springs series. Again, this is also like standalone, interconnected, so you don't have to read them all, but you get more background information and more info on other characters as you read. So for me, this is the first one in this series. It's really good. It has me excited to read the rest. I won't lie, I'm very excited for the third one that's going to come out with Teddy and Gus. Versus I am excited to read Wes and Ada's story, which is the second one. I'm more excited for Teddy and Gus. With regards to the first one, it was so good. Their romance is very, very sweet. And the other stories, the actual stories of the characters and what they have going on as far as Emmy really trying to figure out what she wants her next step to be and trying to leave the profession that she's in on a high note instead of on a very low note, where she is very much scared to actually get back on a horse when you first meet her. So that part of the story is really interesting as far as her like progress. I will say though, I don't normally say this about romances, but it almost felt like the book should have been a little bit longer, because her healing journey and what she had to go through to get back up on the horse and to, like that's like probably the most cliche saying ever, and I don't think I'm even saying it right, but to get back up on the horse, to get back out there and do what she's always loved, that healing journey felt a little bit rushed for me. And I just felt like there was a bit of a missed opportunity. Even with Luke and his family, it felt like that was a little bit rushed too. So it would have been nice if the book was just like a little bit longer, in my opinion. That was kind of my only drawback with this book, is I love the stories that are outside of the love story, and theirs, even though they were great, fell a little flat in terms of like, if it were actually happening, they would have needed more time, and they very well could have had more time, but in this fictional world you don't see them actually working on it the way that it would probably require for them to be able to do the things they're doing at the very end of the book. But that was pretty much my only drawback, because I just felt like their side stories, I guess you could call them, were a little bit rushed. I did really like them regardless. If you have read Chestnut Springs, I think going into this I was thinking can I really enjoy this? I feel like I've already read, I don't know, 5 cowboy romances technically in that series. Will this really be that much different? It is, and if you like this genre, this subgenre, I do think you would really like this. Especially if you did like Chestnut Springs. I really liked the difference in characters and the different approach to their storylines. I like that Emmy is actually more of the cowgirl, and Luke is not really a cowboy. He is in that environment, but he's not. The focus in that sense is more on her and her story in that realm of things. So that was kind of interesting, because he is a cowboy. He does work on the farm and help the family, but Emmy is more so the one that is the professional. I can't remember what she does. I think it's barrel racing. She's the professional though, so that was really cool to see. Like I said, I love women in unique fields that are basically badasses, and they're really good at what they do, and they're willing to be the best at what they do. I do love stories like that, so that was a really good story outside of the love story. I think my favorite part of this book though, honestly, was that it showed you that people aren't always what you think they are, and that they can change. I think people tend to think that people can't change. I think we change all the time, and I think it's a really beautiful thing, and this is a perfect example of people do change, and it's kind of more a matter of if you're willing to see it or not. The other thing I really loved was that there's also a reminder that things really can turn out better than you ever thought they could, and different than you thought they could. And again, the environment, she does make the atmosphere and the Rebel Blue Ranch really come to life, which I loved. I did feel like I was right there with them, and I love when that happens. I love feeling like I'm very immersed in a book. Onto the love story parts. The dialogue and the characters and the way they are with each other, I don't know if it's because it's this brother's best friend trope, but they are very funny and at each other, which I did think was very entertaining, and also it's just funny because I noticed that books will do this thing where something's happening in them that if it happened in real life, you wouldn't like it, but in the book, you're like, oh, I love this. So Luke Brooks, calls Emmy, I feel like you have to say Luke Brooks, like you have to say the full name. Anyway, he calls Emmy Sugar, which I would hate in real life if someone was calling me that, but I literally remembered making a note that like this fictional man could call me that. But it's just funny because in real life, no, I would probably hate that, but it is funny. And it is funny that he loves calling her that because it's kind of a twofold thing where it gets under her skin, but he also just loves her. The brother's best friend trope was new to me. I've never read anything like that. I did think it was well done. It didn't make me cringe or make me feel like uncomfortable like I thought it would. I don't know why in my head I was imagining it would be just so much worse than it was, but it's not at all. And it was funny because Gus, the older brother, is definitely an asshole, and it was nice to see Teddy, her best friend, really set her brother straight when those moments come up. Some of the things he said, I was kind of shocked. They weren't even directed at me, obviously, and they were very hurtful. I was surprised. It's just sad when people say stuff like that to each other. I felt it made it feel more real. And as a side note, this is just something that I have noticed. I don't know if it's like contemporary romance. I mean, I guess it must be. I hope I'm saying these genres right. Like, I've never even looked up what contemporary romance is. I'm just assuming that it's like modern romantic fiction. Anyway, what bothers me in almost all of them, even in like the like romantasy genre, is I feel like the main female character is just always on birth control or has an IUD or has just been... I'm watching one of our cats stare down the dog outside. Our one cat really, really doesn't like the dog, unfortunately, and it's kind of sad because the dog is scared of him. They never hurt each other, but yeah. Anyway, back to my point. They're just on birth control. And I get that, like, if that's what you want to do, I'm not saying that that's wrong. It's just crazy to me that in every single book I read, they're either on some weird magical tonic already, like they're not even seeing anyone and they're just on it. And in the magical realm, there's no such thing as like side effects where it's to help with your skin or your period or whatever. And in these ones, it's like any modern romance, they're just on it and have it. And I feel like it would be nice to see a more realistic discussion instead of just doing it raw because you have birth control. Anyway, that's a little crass, a little bit vulgar, sorry. It's just my one thing lately I've been noticing is it's like they're just always on birth control or they always have an IUD and they're ready to go. It's like that's not always very realistic and it's kind of unfortunate in my opinion. I don't know. I guess it makes for better smut. Outside of that though, I will say the book was very fun, very hot, very inspiring. And I think what's really interesting about this book is without directly saying it, except for if you read the author's notes, without directly saying it, she does point out that Emmy does have ADHD, which is, I have not read a character where I have either noticed it or had the author point out that the character does have ADHD. So it was interesting to read from her perspectives knowing that because I believe that note's like right at the beginning of the book. I thought that was really unique. Again, inspiring. I would highly recommend this if you are looking for like a really fun, hot, easy read, especially going into the summer. I think I read this in like a day. And the last thing I will say is if you have read this, the whiskey scene. I think I talked about this in my April book bucket list. But that is definitely one of the hottest scenes I've read in a book. I don't know what's wrong with me, but yeah. I think I put this in my like Kindle notes and highlights, but that was something else. And that's, yeah, anyway. Regardless, this book is pretty much great on all fronts. I just would have loved it if it was a little bit longer to really capture like the healing journey that both of them would have had to go through, not just in like a little epilogue at the end where it's like the extra happily ever after. That was my only thing. And then like the birth control, but that's every modern romance. So yeah, I really like this one, and I am very excited to read Swift and Saddled this month. And honestly, any other cowboy romances, if you know of them, put them in the recommendations. If you know someone that's getting into their cowboy romance era, definitely recommend them this video or the book. It's great, I love them, and I am a very big fan of Lyla Sage now. This has been a really fun reading experience, and I hope you enjoy these books too. If you get into them, let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you guys soon.